Looks like Verdi and Grant in the Plymouth. Here is my mom and little Dean in front of Grandpa Billings' house. There goes Mom, Francine. Here comes Mabel and my grandpa Delbert Billings and myself at his original house. Here's a picnic, and there was Ruby and Roo. Here comes Francine and Gary, and here comes Shirley and her two daughters, Shirley Patterson. Here comes Rose Billings and Jean Billings carrying goodies to the picnic table. Here we're all sitting at the picnic table. Here comes Henry and Pearl and Johnny Patterson. And there's Lola Patterson, pregnant, talking to Rose. Here comes Shirley, and I guess that's Lola. Here comes Bernadine and Leo Reeves. And here's a group at the table. There's Henry Patterson in the middle. There's Fred Paulke in the checkered shirt. Grant in the background. My mom on the right. There's Ruby and little Dean and Francine. Here comes Jimmy and Glenn Billings. Here comes Gay Marie and Kay Lynn. There's Gene and there's Chuck. And there's Paulke. There's looks like Bernadine. There's Naomi in the middle and George in the paper bag there. There's my mom and Dean in some restaurant. There's Glenn or Patty and Jimmy Billings at their house, and there's the red. There's me in the middle, and there's the red Plymouth with the fins on it. There's my mom, and she's walking with Pat or Glenn, who's carrying the cat. And here's Gene Billings, and I don't know if that's a Pontiac or a Packard. Here's Rose. She's going over by the Oldsmobile. And there is there's my mom, and we're at Glenwood Springs. There's my grandma, and there's my Uncle Llewellyn. Llewellyn Lindenschmidt. He's out working in the garden at Glenwood Springs. Here's the boat he built. There's Grandma holding Dean, I guess. There's the old Plymouth. There's another red Plymouth. Here we're down at the boat dock, getting ready to take a trip on the boat. There's Grandma. Here we are at the rodeo. This must be near Colburn or maybe Mesa or Quebec. Shouldn't be Rangeley, or it could be in Rifle. Brahma Bull. There's Canoe on the Colorado in the Roaring Forks at Glenwood Springs. There's Llewellyn. He's got the little outboard going. I'm sitting up in front. Here we are heading up the river. Now we're heading down. Now we're turning around and heading up the stream at Glenwood Springs. Oops, that was the end of that one. Here we go again. Going full steam up the river, Colorado. There's my dad and Dean and There's the grandma's house in the background. Or is that the shed? I think that's a shed. Anyway, here's a kayaker heading down the river on a race. Down the mighty Colorado River. There's a couple canoers heading down the river. There's Mom and Dean. At Glenwood Springs, there's the red Plymouth in the background. Here's the Glenwood Hot Springs swimming pool. You can see the mountains in the background, the Storm King. And there's the big swimming pool building. There's the cabana. This is down in the where the hot water comes in the shallow end. There's Mom up on the west end of the pool where the big fountain is spraying up. And there's Francine, Dean, and myself. This was before Tammy was born. It's wonderful, warm, hot sulfur water from the Glenwood Springs. There's my dad and Kay Lynn. There's teaching Dean to swim. There's my Uncle Lou. He's caught himself a big fish. Looks like one of those Colorado suckers. There's the sunset. Here we are back in Citrus Heights, my mom and dad's place. There's Martha, Howie Martha, and Ruth Martha. And there's my mom and Ruth. And there's Howie on the left smoking a cigarette. He's from New York. And here's Pellegrino, Dorothy's father. There's Dean. There's my mom. Here's the hot sulfur springs mud where the water boils up from the active volcano underneath the fumarole. Here's Bernadine walking up the path. You can see her in the black sweater there. And there's around Lassen Peak. You can see the smoke coming out of some of the escaping hot sulfur gas at Lassen Peak. That's something over on Lassen Peak, or one of the hills on the way up to the top. There's my mom and me, and looks like Francine and the baby. And here's a picture of some of the fish eating breadcrumbs. Some nice big trout. Might be Emerald Lake. Yeah, there's Emerald Lake. No fishing allowed. That's why there's so many fish in there. There's beautiful Emerald Lake up on Mount Lassen. There's Dean. Here we are in Redding or Red Bluff. We're just on a weekend. I was on TDY, probably Klamath Falls, Oregon, and we came down to meet my parents at Redding or Red Bluff. And here's some of Dean's very first steps. We're taken in this park in, I think it was Red Bluff. My parents drove up to meet us there. I think they were going to take Dean back because we had another week or so to go on TDY. Whoops. There's my dad helping Dean to walk, getting him started. There's my mom, Francine, and my dad, and little Dean in the park. I think it was Redding or Red Bluff. Probably Red Bluff. Taking some steady steps there. Very first steps. And I'm giving him a swing, pushing the swing. There's Kaylin and Dean and our little Volkswagen. flowers. Oh, this Grandma Hazel wanted to visit some friends in Antioch or Martinez. I think it was Martinez. So this is Martinez, California. My mom, my grandma, and my grandmother's old friend. There's Grandma Hazel checking out the flowering bush. There's my mom and Hazel's friend on the right. And there's the husband of Hazel's friend. This looks like flowers at the state fair, I believe. Chrysanthemums. Hazel, Francine, Gary, and Dean. There's Dean in his white coat. This is Mom and Dad's backyard. Francine, Hazel, and Dean. Francine and her fancy 57 car. The original Thunderbird with the hard top, which could be removed. She gave Grandma Hazel a ride in her 57 or 58 Thunderbird. There's Mom and Dad in, I think it was a 57 Plymouth. I'm not sure what year it was. Probably a 57 Plymouth. Had the big red fins on the back. Mom, Hazel, and Dad. Giving him a love. There's Mom with her hair slicked back into a bun. Dorothy Pellegrino coming. There's little Dean in his red suit by the Volkswagen. He's really taken off. This looks like some more State Fair pictures of running waters. Can't see the flowers. Some more State Fair flowers. And the county's building exhibit. This is probably 1960 maybe. Or 59. Some more State Fair flower exhibits. Here we are back home. There's me, Hazel, and my mom, I think. Mom's busy crocheting. Hazel's checking out the magazine. There's my dad and his mom, Hazel. There's my mom and Dean. Dean's getting a close up. He's wearing my dad's boots, my dad's cowboy boots. They come up to his hips. Okay, time to stop or pause here. See if we can get a pause.